Aftab and wish you all a very, very good evening. Time in the studio clock is 4 minutes past 6 o'clock. It's a Sunday evening, last day of the month, last Sunday of the month. And I'm sure all of you know this program is called Citizens Chat. And today we'll be addressing a very important topic, I should say, because parenting plays a very important role in each one of our lives. It can make or break the future of a kid. And to talk about this with us is Subha Parthasarathy, who's running a counseling and training center called Magic Hive. She is a counselor focused on helping parents to work towards effective relationship with their children. And for last 10 years, she has reached out to thousands of parents through her programs called Chetna and workshops on non-violent communication. Ma'am, it's such a pleasure to have you with us today. A very warm welcome to the program.
Thank you, Meghna. Thank you for having me here.
So it just interested me and made me very curious to understand what is compassionate and conscious parenting. What does it mean? Because there is no such thing called a perfect parent, and Sui Atkins says just be the real one. So what is compassionate and conscious parenting? Please tell us about it.
Okay. The basic idea is that every action has its consequence.
Right.
And every behavior is motivated from some thought of ours or a feeling or something that motivates us to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So when we become parents, we have children in our family, then we feel that we are responsible for them.
Mm-hmm.
So when we start thinking that way, our actions also come out from what we are thinking. So there may be a lot of actions which are very productive. There may be actions which have certain consequences which may not be very pleasant for the child.
Right.
So when we talk about conscious parenting, we are talking about being aware of yourself. The more I understand myself, the more I am able to be effective with the other person. When I know what I'm thinking, when I know what my beliefs are,
Mm-hmm.
what I feel about it, then I can choose the action that I want to take.
Right.
Otherwise, I flow with that emotion and maybe choose an action which may not be very constructive for me as well as the child. So that's the conscious part of it. Now, what does compassion mean? Normally today we see that children are being treated more as objects.
Like listen to me. This is what you should do, because I know. Like parents do that generally because they have experience, they have seen life more than a child has seen. So I think that naturally comes out when they say, I know what is good for you, just listen to me.
Yeah, but then children have their own brains, they have their own feelings, they have their own thoughts. Yes, their brain is developing,
Mm-hmm.
but they also can think for themselves.
Right.
So compassion comes from understanding that they are also human beings as much as we are. They also have feelings as much as we have, and they can also think for themselves. You will never see a baby waiting for you to tell the baby that you cry when you're hungry. The baby just cries.
Yeah.
So the baby knows when to cry, when to poop, when to pee. So we are not telling that to the baby. But what happens as the child grows up? We are telling them what exactly they need to eat, what they should be doing, how they should be successful in life, and we decide everything for them.
Somehow the conditioning kicks in and we expect, or generally parents expect, that my daughter or son should behave in a particular manner because that is what the society wants them to do.
Yeah, so that is where our belief systems come in.
Mm-hmm.
What is more important for me? So when I try to understand what is really going on, for example, if a child does not say hello to somebody, so what goes on with me first is the question, not what I need to do with the child. That comes much later.
Right.
So if I'm aware that it's a belief of mine that a child should say hello to someone, it is good manners, what will people think about me? So we are talking about a lot of things out here in terms of the image that I carry for myself, the belief that I have, and the feelings that come up. If my child does not say hello today, maybe after 20 years she's going to be a shy person. So we use a lot of assumptions and it's more based out of fear that we operate.
True.
Rather than actually understanding the child. So we call it downstream parenting and upstream parenting. So you can go upstream. You know how difficult it is to go upstream. So you have to put in so much of effort to go up the stream.
Right.
And the moment you stop rowing, you go down.
Correct.
But downstream parenting is going along with the river, along with the stream. So you
It's
are
effortless and more flowy.
Yes.
Yeah.
For that, I need to understand the child. Not work on the child, but work with the child.
Wow, like that's like a super short summary of what this session, this show, this program will be about. Friends, keep it locked to 101.3. This is FM Rainbow. 15 minutes past 6 o'clock. You're listening to FM Rainbow 101.3. This is Citizens Chat, and with me is Subha Parthasarathy. We were talking about conscious and compassionate parenting. So you were talking about parents. It is easy for parents to go downstream and grow with the kids rather than grow the kids up. But still today, if we see the trend, there are a lot of children who, like, depression is the word which probably is so prevalent in school days. Like, that is something we heard when we grew up. It was only post-work or adulthood. That is when we realized something like this. But today, kids feel depressed. They are low. We also see suicidal rates which are going high. Why is that happening?
Okay. Like I said before, that when we do certain actions, there is a consequence for it. For example, earlier on all we started cutting trees, but we are seeing the consequence now, right, in terms of the hardships that we are facing. So it's the same way with parenting. In terms of human relationships, it's possible that we are focusing on certain things which may be leading to such consequence. Say, for example, I can give you a few pointers on what we may be doing which may be causing the what we are seeing right now.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So one of them can be that we are a lot into skill building for children. That means if you see children nowadays from the age of 4, they are going to different classes. Parents want their children to learn as much as possible, maybe because of the belief that the brain can take in as much as possible when the child is young.
Yeah.
So what happens is that the child is more into doing. So it's all skills, achievements, medals, sports. So the child is doing. But what about what the child may be feeling inside or what he's thinking? We may not be too focused on that.
Mm-hmm.
So the being somewhere gets suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
And as the child starts growing up, till the doing works for the child is confident. Mm-hmm. So we don't really see about the esteem, self-esteem or other things don't come into the picture.
Right.
Only when the child starts failing in those skills, say academics increase or the syllabus changes, mm-hmm, and friends they are not able to make, they are not able to build that skill even more. Things happen because everything is not permanent. Things keep changing.
Yeah.
So that is the time the confidence falls. But the thing is, there is no self-esteem backing there.
True.
So everything falls, everything comes crashing down. And for the parent, it is very, very challenging at that point of time they are not clear, whether to increase the confidence or whether to work with self-esteem. So,
generally, there is also this notion that if this child is engaged, like if it goes to music class and then throw ball or, games and other things, they get the sportsman spirit and they interact with other students a lot so that they grow together. They develop caring and other skills or other feelings, emotions. Is that right, or would you talk about that belief?
Yeah, there is no right or wrong here.
Uh-huh.
It is the consequence of it. As children are growing up, the brain is just developing like the body.
Mm-hmm.
So the brain is not able to really process what they are learning. They are learning. It comes effortlessly because there are no inhibitions. Like as for grown-ups we have.
Right.
So if I have to do something new, a lot of thoughts come in. You can't do it or it's going to be tough. But children may not have those inhibitions.
Correct.
So they are eager to learn. They want to learn. But what happens is during the learning, there is a lot of testing happening. Mm-hmm. The brain cannot process that. So that comes only after 12 and 13 when the child can process the competition, all those things, that factors which come in, which we are not factoring in when they are learning all that.
Right.
So it sometimes it can be very counterproductive.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one of the reasons. The other is when we talk about competition, the beliefs that we have, that as a parent I carry, that the world is very competitive. So we kind of push our children into believing that that is true.
Like survival of the best. If you're not
so
best, you won't
Yes,
land up.
absolutely.
I mean,
so
this
it
is
is
a
all about
notion.
you need to be first, you need to
Right.
be a winner. So we use a lot of words that can impact a child's growth. For example, winning, losing, success, failure. So
Wow.
these are just words.
Correct.
Right? How do you define success? It's just an unexpected outcome. So I may be expecting something, it doesn't happen, it doesn't make me a failure, it is not a failing. But we tend to use these words. If you look at the language that people use, even in the media or the newspaper, for example, even cricket, we use words like India thrashed Pakistan. The words that we use impacts our brain.
Right.
So we use a lot of words with children like you should, you have to, you must. Or I use it for myself. I should, I must, I have to. So what happens is we work from a space of no choice. So when you work from a space of no choice, there is going to be anger and resentment.
Right.
And the beauty of all this is that there is choice at any point of time in our life. If I'm doing something which may be a little unpleasant, I can still choose to be happy about it. I can choose to be miserable about it. So Viktor Frankl, he was a Holocaust survivor.
Okay.
And he talks about choice. And he says that at any point of time in your life, you have a choice. So if you are able to get that belief in, then things will change tremendously for us.
Okay. So one is how parents talk to their children, and the second reason could be that they engage them so much that they are so much into doing physical activity or learning, be it any activity, they're so much into doing that the being gets suppressed. So these are the reasons which could lead to how a child behaves and develops to behave. I mean, there are so many questions I have to ask. One of our listeners says, my brother is planning to send his son, who's 9-year-old, to a boarding school. So his question is, would a boarding school be better or a day school? While we'll answer that question, keep it locked to 101.3. Coming your way is a song in the voice of Pratik Kadam. Keep it locked to 101.3. And if you have any questions for Subha, please feel free to send it across to our WhatsApp number 9480. Welcome back. You're listening to FM Rainbow 101.3. This is Citizens Chat with Subha Parthasarathy. We are talking about conscious and compassionate parenting. Ma'am, we just told about how important it is to mind and watch on the words we say, rather than using you have to, you should, where parents are compelling their children to, like, giving them a feeling that you don't have a choice. This is the only way. It could be more open, like where you flow with the kids and maybe ask them what would you like to do and give them that choice. Give them the feeling that they are valued. So I think that is one thing. But when this happens, when a child becomes arrogant, when the child is not ready to listen, when they are rebelling, parents generally find solutions to treat the kids. But somewhere the cause is with parents. So where should this be addressed? Like, logically, yes, we have to treat the kid to get them out of it. But what is your say?
Yeah, it's a very valid question, Meghna, because many times we see certain behaviors in children which as a parent I may not understand, or I may think that I need to address that issue. Like you said, the child talks back, or the child is not willing to listen to us and do what we want them to do. And the more important thing here to understand is that when you see a behavior, there is a reason behind that behavior.
Right.
So the child will behave the way he's behaving. If he's feeling okay, then it's going to be okay. If it is not, he's not feeling okay, then the behavior will show it. So when we see the behavior, they're just symptoms of what may be going on underneath it. Many a times we are trying to just work on the surface. For example, you have a plant, and the plant, the leaves are dry, so you remove the leaves and then you want the plant to grow. But if the roots are not sturdy, if the roots are not grounded, then the plant is not going to grow. So
Right.
it's the same thing which works for children. So we need to understand where the behavior is coming from. So when I work as a counselor and I work in this space of parent-child, so my first thing what I tell the parent is, I need to meet you, not the child.
Okay.
So in my 10 years of experience, what I have learned is, yes, you may need to work with the child, but that comes much, much later.
Okay.
So there are parents who are willing to work and they understand that, yes, we could change a lot of things and that could change the way the child is working right now. There are a lot of parents who may not want to work that way because it does take longer. It takes a lot of effort because we need to understand ourselves and then understand the child. And it's a long process.
Yeah. A lot of unlearning before you really learn, because most of these habits what parents do today is like, my parents did this to me, I didn't like, so I will not do that, but some other way it is just going downwards.
Yes, either I will do what my parent didn't do in the beginning, but then I will end up doing the same thing what my parent did. So it can happen.
Right.
So what we work is with the parents first. So we always tell the parent that you come first. Let us understand the situation and then we will see what can be done. So a lot of strategies we give to the parent. We talk about how the brain develops, what are the changes. So once the parent starts understanding, things do change. And that has been my experience.
Okay.
So instead of treating the child who has already been, suppressed and who has been told a lot of things, when you say he's rude, he's not listening, they are all labels. So we give that label to the child, then there's no point taking the child for, treatment. So we need to work with ourselves. And at the end of the day, we are looking at the connection between the parent and the child, not between the counselor and the child. So
I have another question. So generally when kids ask for something, parents provide it. They give everything that the child asks and then they say, why aren't you listening to me? Because I have given you everything you asked for.
Yeah, it's called rewards and punishment kind of thing. We think the carrot stick approach works in parenting. It doesn't. Right? You are not training your children. You're bringing up your children.
Right.
So there is no question. We have got into this habit ki, I'll give you a chocolate, you complete your homework, or I buy you an Xbox if you get 90%. They're getting 90% and that makes them happy, is their reward for the work they have done. We are kind of giving external validation which brings down their self-esteem. So we are so attached to external validation that if someone doesn't say you're good or you're good enough, I don't feel good enough with whatever I am doing.
Yeah.
And that is, many kids are going through that because they think they identify themselves with the doing, not with who they are.
And also the whole concept of right or wrong depends on what their parents feel is right or wrong. The judgment of what is good or bad, right or wrong, the whole system of that gets based on what the parent believes.
Yeah.
So
there is a poem of Khalil Gibran, which I normally quote, and he says that your children are not your children. They come through you, but they are individuals in their own sense. So you can give them your property, your money, your jewelry, whatever you want. Don't pass on your thoughts to them. Let them decide for themselves what the world is all about. But instead we tell them the world is competitive, world is bad, world is this, world is that, that person is like this person is like that. So the child, as he's growing up, he may listen to us, but then he experiences something different. And that is when the conflict starts. Because the world is not the way you are telling me it is. And I want to experience the world on my own. And that is where the clashes start, and it kind of escalates from there.
Right. So coming back to the question. Welcome back. You're listening to FM Rainbow 101.3, 6:37 on the studio clock. Subha, it is so good talking to you. I didn't realize how time has flown by.
Thank you.
So quickly getting to the question Mr. Ashok asks.
Yeah. So it's a choice that a parent makes whether to send for the boarding or have a day. There are certain, advantages in terms of having the child with you. because there is a lot of scope for connection with the child. There is a lot of scope for the child to have someone to rely on when the child is going through the growing phase, and whatever they go through, the parent can be there as a support for the child if they are able to build that connection with the child. When the child goes for boarding at the age of 9, the brain is not completely developed. It's developing. That means the prefrontal cortex is just developing. That is the part of the brain which monitors your time management, decision making, problem solving, empathy, compassion. All that is in that part of the brain. So if the child is not emotionally aware by the time he's going to boarding, what happens is he may face a lot of difficulties there or challenges there which he may not know how to manage.
Right.
We may be thinking that he's managing it, but he may be having coping strategies which are not constructive.
Right.
So we may never know that till that person
Correct.
becomes
Where you-
30, 35, and then you might see that in his life how
Right.
he brings out. And the other danger by sending smaller kids to boarding is the sense of rejection.
Right.
Okay, so it depends on each person, it depends on each family. If the child is willing, I'm in no position to tell them that
Correct.
what is right, but I would suggest that they just pause and think about what their objective is, because at the end of the day we are the parents. There's no outsourcing which can happen out
Right.
here, and even if we do outsourcing, it may not be what we really want.
Right.
So I would suggest a little pause there to
Okay.
rethink on it and then make the choice.
Thank you, Subha. I hope that answers your question, Ashok. Coming back about conscious and compassionate parenting. So first is for parents to realize if their children are rebellious, they are not listening to them, then there is something which is going wrong in what is being fed or how they are being treated.
Yeah. It's just that children are growing up, so you are going to see changes.
Right.
So sometimes parents come and say, till the age of 7 he was listening to me, now suddenly what has happened?
Right.
So if I'm able to be aware that because of that bodily changes, the brain is changing, so the behavior is going to change, the emotions are going to change, and the relationship with the parent is going to change. Because the same child who's completely dependent on me says, Mama, I don't need you here, or it's embarrassing to be with you when my friends come. So we are not able to take that change, and we start thinking that there is something wrong with the child, but actually the child is growing. So if we are able to go along with their growth, it'll be easier for us to work with them, easier for us to understand them, easier for us to actually be connected with them. So the connection drops when they don't listen to us. It doesn't work that way. The connection remains. So we call it the 6 C's of parenting. Connection, compassion, communication, cooperation, then choices, and then you bring about the change. So unless there is a connection with the person, with the compassion that that person is as human as I am, and the choice of words that I use, it's not a controlling choice of words, but it is a cooperative choice of words. For example, I say, Meghna, are you willing to get me a glass of water? Instead of saying, Meghna, get me a glass of water, the tone, the language, everything changes. So when you give respect to the other person, automatically there is a willingness for the person to give. We are all born to give and receive. So we do that simultaneously. There is no taking from anyone.
Correct.
That's my belief.
Yeah, it's both. Give and take, and it's mutual.
There is no taking. It's only giving and receiving.
Okay.
So, so when I am using a language which gives you respect, and I am giving you a choice, then you are willing to cooperate, and then you make the choice. So you might say, is it okay, Subha, if I give you the water after 5 minutes? So there is in terms of the cooperation where we are working with choices, and if that's okay with me, I say, yeah, that works for me. So it's a midway that you find, not it's my way or your way.
Right.
So many of us think that as parents, we might believe, yes, we all have, our needs are very valid. We want our child to be safe, we want them to grow up successfully, we want them to be happy. The methods that we use, maybe constructive or not.
Right. So if a parent wants to communicate something to the kid, like you said, the choice of words, what else should they keep in mind?
Keep in mind that they are human, and they may choose to say no to something.
Be ready to take that no
Yes.
from
So
them.
what we say, what we believe, and what I tell parents is, whenever you hear a no, tell yourself in the mind that the child is saying yes to something. So there is always a yes behind a no. For example, you might say no to someone for something. Maybe your friend says, come for a movie, and you want to take rest, and you say no. So what are you saying yes to? Resting. So at any point of time, wherever there is a no, there is a yes to. So if I am willing to hear things differently, so when my child says, no, I will not study, I am hearing yes to comfort or relaxation, then I may not be that angry with the child, or I may be willing to work with the child to see what I can do, so that the child is also willing to give in a little. That's it.
Wow, that was a very nice perspective to see the other side of the no, because generally we don't take it that way. Thank you for that perspective. Before we go further, there's a song coming your way, and if you have any questions for Subha, please feel free to send it across to 9480901013. That's our WhatsApp number. Keep it locked to 101.3. This is Citizens Chat.
ಕೇಳಬಹುದು.
Welcome back. You're listening to FM Rainbow 101.3, 46 minutes past 6 on the clock. I have a message for you, Subha, one of your attendees who has attended Chetana's session. She says it changed her life forever, and she attended your program and she was utterly lost and in many situations, and being a parent, she did not know how to respond or what was right, what was wrong, and attending Chetana helped her shake the beliefs and understand feelings, distinguish between thoughts, and it helped her to decode parenting so much that she has another kid now. So now that makes me very curious of what Chetana program is. Can you talk a little bit about what this program is?
Yeah, sure. Chetana is a 10-session workshop where it's more about understanding yourself. Like we spoke about the thoughts and the feelings. A lot of times we are not clear with our thoughts and our feelings. We think that we are feeling, but we are actually thinking. For example, you might say, I feel that I'm not clear about life.
Right.
So when you say that, is it a feeling or a thought?
I don't know. It could be a thought.
Yeah. So what would be the feeling then?
Feeling of uncertainty, confusion.
So that's how you distinguish the two. When I think that I'm not clear with my life, it makes me feel little uncomfortable, or
Right.
I feel uncertain. So when you get more clarity in your thought, feeling, all that, then you are able to make much better choices. So Chetana is all about understanding. We work with the 3 A's. The first A is the awareness. We become aware that there are so many different ways of understanding behavior. Right? So from thoughts, feelings, to motivations, to our images that we carry, the kind of communication we have, the needs. So we cover a lot of topics in that 10 sessions. And the second A is accepting that awareness that comes up. So I'm aware that I'm thinking this. And the third A is the action part, where you start making those changes to change your behavior, to help your child change his behavior if he chooses to.
Okay. Very interesting. And I also read that you have life skill session, year-long life skill session for children. What kind of life skills?
Okay, these are what we understood is on one side when we work with parents, it helps. But on the other side, if we are also working with children as they are growing up, then they will be also more aware individuals who are taking independent choices and taking responsibility responsibility for the choices that they make in life rather than blaming others for what has happened to them. So we work with something called life skills for children from the age of 5 till 14, and we have once in a week session for each age group.
Okay.
So there we work with different concepts like emotional awareness, the vocabulary of a growth mindset, how to be open to learning, problem solving, empathy, understanding yourself in terms of, right now we are in that process of doing anger module with kids. So they learn to understand that where does that anger come from, what is the stimulus, what is the trigger, and what is the action. So it helps them to pause, at least get that exposure for them, so that maybe as they grow up, maybe not now, but as they grow up, they will use it somewhere. We are just giving them a lot of tools to work with. It's very interesting because it's all, we don't use, lectures, we use videos or just activities. They are free to discuss whatever happens in their life. So we give them a safe space to share. And that really, really helps.
True. I mean, when you talk about safe space, if a child doesn't feel safe to express what he or she is feeling, then we are suppressing and it gets regressed. So
yes. It comes up much later in life.
True. So before we go on to the next question, I want to ask, what are those tips and things that parents should keep in mind to practice conscious and compassionate parenting? Because it is a change of habit. They are so used to doing what they are doing now. To change that habit, it is definitely efforts and also the willingness to do it. So what are some things which you could suggest they should keep in mind?
Yeah, I can maybe give them a tool, a simple tool. It's called Learn. So when you put your palm out, there are 5 fingers.
Right.
So LEARN.
Starting with the thumb.
Starting with L.
Yes.
So the L is to listen. Listen more rather than keep talking. When children are talking, our mind is already rushing somewhere else. We want them to finish it. Let's listen more. Listen to what they are thinking. Listen to what they are feeling. Listen to what their motivations are, what their dreams are. Just listen, to pause and listen. E is to empathize. Give empathy. All of us go through our feelings. All of us go through our ups and downs. We want someone to empathize with us, not give us lectures, advices, suggestions, tell us what is wrong with us, but actually just hear us out. Right. So children also need that. Empathy is a very important factor with whatever condition you work
in their
with.
Shoes to feel what they are feeling.
Yeah, that is pretty tough.
Right.
But at least to try to understand what they are going through. So empathy is, the second one. And A is for acceptance, accepting them the way they are. Don't try to make them something else. Just accept them and have faith that they are going to find their way in this world. We all exist not because, we have to do something. We exist because we are meant to exist. That's my belief.
Right.
So, just accept the child the way he or she is in this given moment. Don't be in jumpy mood to change them. R, reflection. As adults, we don't use reflection as a tool at all. So any experience we learn from only when we reflect. So we need to start asking ourselves open-ended questions and learn from every experience. Help our children to learn from their experiences. It doesn't matter if it's unpleasant or pleasant, but help them to reflect what is happening with them, what are their thoughts, and also respond to children rather than react. Right. So that is the R. And N is for negotiation. It is not my way or highway. It is both our ways. We need to find a way that works for both of us. And you can be firm with the children, but you can negotiate. Even a 3-year-old can negotiate. Even a 7-year-old can negotiate. And even a 17-year-old can negotiate. But unless we teach them, unless we give them these tools, unless we expose them to these tools, they are not going to be using it. So my suggestion to parents is to just, become aware of this concept of learn, and learn on the go. When you're learning as a parent, You learn much more than
So to
thinking that I
summarize
know.
it is listen, empathize, accept. R is
Reflection
reflect
and-
and respond, not react. N is negotiation. Fantastic. I mean, they are so powerful. I'm sure if people practice this, they will not have any issues and everybody will grow up to be in a healthy environment.
Yeah, there are always going to be challenges. The main thing for a parent is to understand that we are all learning at any point of time.
Right.
So parenting earlier was supposed to be common sense. It's like, okay, all of us did it. Everyone was brought up. Now it's what I have realized through my experience of having 2 kids is that it is also a little amount of skill. It is little amount of understanding what it is all about, and the understanding starts from me.
Right, fantastic. There is one last question. I don't know the name. She asks that her kid always says, Amma, I did it by mistake, I'm sorry, after doing whatever he wants to. And she feels he's careless. So how can she stop this habit?
She wants to stop the habit of calling him careless, or she wants him to stop the habit of doing what he does. Okay, so there are 2 things out here. One, when I label the child as being careless, I need to work with that. We use a lot of adjectives for children that get stuck on them.
Right.
So if the child hears that he is being careless, so that gives him an excuse to be careless. So after some time he's going to say, Amma, this is how I am. That is one part of it. The other part of it is saying sorry after doing something. Maybe the child is in that age where he's curious about things, but somewhere he knows that it may not be accepted by the parent, that exploration or whatever the child is doing. I'm not clear. She has not mentioned it. So if the child is being given the space to explore, or maybe a little bit of talking to the child, saying that, okay, you're curious about it, or your need to explore is there, what are the other ways of doing it? Maybe she can come up with different strategy, or the child will come up with different strategy to work with his need.
Okay. Thank you.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, I hope that helps. Thank you so much, Subha. It is 1 hour and just didn't